Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever actually paused to wonder how engineers design the physical chips, the CPUs, the GPUs, the memory controllers that power literally every single line of code we write? We spend so much time talking about software, but today we're going straight down to the very foundation. We are exploring the specialized languages that don't just run on the hardware, but actually create the hardware itself. We're talking about Verilog and VHDL.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover what HDLs are, thinking like hardware, Verilog versus VHDL, the whole journey from code to silicon, hardware building blocks, and then wrap it up with the big picture. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. What exactly are HDLs, and what's this blueprint analogy all about?
To really wrap our heads around HDLs, we first need to address a fundamental problem with the programming languages most of us already know. When you're typing away in Python or C++, you're basically just creating a list of instructions for a processor that already exists. Think of it like handing a list of chores to workers who are already standing inside a finished building. But hardware description languages, totally different ballgame. They are the architectural blueprints defining the building itself, the walls, the rooms, the electrical wiring, all of it, long before the building even exists.
So, formally speaking, a hardware description language, or HDL, is a language used to describe digital electronic circuits. We're talking logic gates, registers, data paths, state machines, the whole shebang. Instead of writing software that runs on the machine, you are writing code that literally becomes the machine. This code can be simulated, tested, synthesized, and ultimately manufactured as a custom ASIC, an application-specific integrated circuit, or programmed right onto an FPGA, a field programmable gate array. It's basically magic, translating text into physical digital reality.
Moving right along to Section 2, thinking like hardware. This is where we need a massive paradigm shift.
And honestly, this shift is hands down the biggest hurdle for beginners. You basically have to shatter your preconceived programming notions. If you're coming from a software background, your brain is totally wired for sequential execution. A standard processor reads your code and executes it one instruction at a time, right? Step 1 finishes, then Step 2 happens, then Step 3. It's a single file line of logic.
But hardware doesn't work like that at all. Inside a digital system, you might have an adder, a counter, and a register. And guess what? They aren't waiting in line for a processor to call their function. I know, that's a terrifying thought for a lot of software engineers. The adder is calculating, the counter is incrementing, and the register is storing data, literally all at the exact same time. There's no software scheduler required here. The hardware just naturally exists and operates in parallel. Grasping this is the absolute key to mastering digital design.
Let's jump into Section 3, Verilog versus VHD, the heavyweights of the industry. Both of these languages allow engineers to describe massive parallel systems, but they've got very different flavors. Verilog popped up in the 1980s, and its syntax was deliberately designed to resemble the C programming language. Because of that, it's heavily utilized in the commercial semiconductor industry. VHDL, on the other hand, stands for Very High-Speed Integrated Circuit Hardware Description Language. Try saying that 3 times fast. It was actually developed for the U.S. Department of Defense. Because of that specific heritage, VHDL is all about strong typing, explicit design descriptions, and incredibly rigorous structure. That makes it the absolute darling of the aerospace and defense sectors. Which naturally leads us to the most common question I hear from folks just starting out. Which one should you actually learn first?
Well, there's no single universal answer, especially if your specific industry absolutely demands VHDL. But honestly, most beginners are going to have a much smoother time starting with Verilog. Its C-like syntax is generally way simpler to pick up, there is just an absolute abundance of learning resources online, and it is heavily favored in standard FPGA development. But hey, keep this in mind. Memorizing the syntax is the easy part. Mastering those underlying parallel digital logic concepts, that's what truly matters regardless of which language you're actually typing in.
All right, Section 4, from code to silicon. Let's step into the digital workshop.
So how do we actually take these text files and turn them into a physical chip with literally billions of transistors? Well, the very first step after writing your code is simulation. And this is a massive advantage of using HDLs. Before you spend millions of dollars manufacturing a physical chip, you get to test your entire design virtually. Simulation lets you verify that your logic actually works, catch those nasty bugs, and ensure the timing of all your parallel operations lines up perfectly. Finding an error in simulation takes minutes. Finding it after the chip is manufactured, that could literally ruin a company.
Now, once your simulation runs flawlessly, we hit the magical step, synthesis. Synthesis is the process where specialized software tools look at your abstract HDL code and translate it into a massive, tangled web of actual logic gates and physical hardware structures. The tool decides exactly how to wire up the silicon to achieve those parallel behaviors you described in your text file.
To really ground this practically, let's just quickly walk through the full life cycle of FPGA development. Step 1, you write your Verilog or VHDL code. Step 2, you simulate it to make absolutely sure it's perfect. Step 3, you synthesize the design into logic gates. Step 4 is implementation. That's where the software figures out exactly where to place those gates physically on the target chip. Step 5 generates a bit stream, which is just a file containing the final configuration. And finally, Step 6, you program the FPGA, and just like that, your abstract code officially becomes blinking, processing, physical hardware.
Let's move into Section 5, Hardware Building Blocks. What are the actual components of our design?
So when you sit down to actually write this code, how do you do it? Generally, you're using two main design styles. Structural design is very explicit. It is literally like drawing a circuit schematic but using text. You instantiate specific logic gates and manually wire them all together. Then there's behavioral design, which is much more abstract. You describe what the hardware should do. For example, hey, add these two numbers when this specific signal goes high, and you just trust the synthesis tool to figure out the best arrangement of logic gates to make that happen. In reality, most complex modern chips are going to combine both of these approaches.
Another absolutely crucial building block concept is understanding the two different types of logic. Combinational logic is pretty straightforward. The output depends entirely on whatever the current inputs are. Think of a simple AND gate. If both inputs are high right now, the output is high right now. But sequential logic, that's where things get really powerful. Here, the output depends on current inputs and previous states. This is achieved using a clock signal. Things like registers, counters, and state machines only update when that clock ticks. It effectively creates the heartbeat of modern digital systems. And by the way, professional engineers, they are absolutely not sitting around manually flipping virtual switches to test all this complex logic. They write what are called test benches. A test bench is actually just more HDL code, but it's written specifically to test your main design. It acts as a totally automated environment that generates the clock signals, feeds in a barrage of test inputs, and rigorously verifies that the outputs match exactly what's expected.
Finally, Section 6, the big picture. Let's bring all of this together.
As you start your own journey into HDLs, please beware of a few incredibly common beginner traps. First, do not treat your HDL code like standard software. Just don't do it. If you ignore the reality of parallel, simultaneous operation, your designs are going to fail. Second, do not skip simulation. It is your ultimate safety net. And finally, don't get so incredibly bogged down in memorizing the syntax that you forget you're supposed to be designing digital logic.
If you take just one thing away from this entire explainer, let it be this quote from our source material. Verilog and VHDL are not used to program hardware. They are used to create hardware. This right here is the foundational paradigm shift. You are no longer giving a list of instructions to a processor, you are architecting the processor itself.
Which leaves us with one final thought. Every router, every smartphone chip, every massive GPU out there training AI models today, they all started as a blank text file in Verilog or VHDL. So now that you understand this parallel mindset and the tools used to create physical silicon, how are you going to use this knowledge to architect the digital systems of tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible world beneath the code